Welcome to Life's a Coach. Our mission is to empower individuals like you to take charge of your life, discover your purpose, and elevate your performance to new heights. Each week, we'll be diving into engaging discussions, introducing you to valuable tools from the coaching world, and giving you different perspectives on individual development. Whether you're seeking clarity, motivation, or a fresh perspective, we've got you covered. Again, welcome to Life's a Coach, where the power to transform your life begins now.
Welcome back to the Life's a Coach podcast, guys. How's it going, everyone?
Great. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, guys. So today we're going to be diving into the topic of affirmations and intentions. As you all are probably aware of, going into the new year, we'll be diving into New Year's resolutions, right? Everyone wants to set a new resolution. New year, new me, baby, right?
Yes.
That mentality, right? So we thought it was a fantastic idea to dive into really what are we talking about here when we're trying to set an intention and change perhaps something, some type of habit or something that's happening within our own lives, right? So we're going to be taking a look at kind of what the difference is between an affirmation and intention. Some of you may or may not know or have an idea as to what the differences are. And New Year's resolutions, what are the do's and don'ts? What will set you up for success in this new year? So I'm going to start off by putting our listeners or our podcasters on the spot here. What do you guys see as a definition for intention? It's a very strong word and a very kind of, it can go in a number of different directions. So how would you describe intention to our listeners?
At least I think that we put like a very heavy thing on intention, like it's something very big and something that we need to focus a lot. And it's not. Like getting up in the morning, coming out of bed, that's already intention, right? Putting some coffee on your cup, it's already an intention. And sometimes we make it like, I need to focus on what is my intention for my life or for my day. And it's about the small thing, I would say. At least I see it in this very simple thing. All the small acts and all your small thoughts are based on intentions. That can be good or bad.
Because I always thought an intention was like a goal, my aim, something like, okay, this is a big deal. But you're right, Sophia. I love that you reminded me that, when I go to sleep at night and I intend to wake up at 6 a.m. and make my favorite French roast coffee, that's a sweet intention. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm with you both, Sofia and Almar. You're right. It is sometimes in just the small things that allow us to feel like we're stepping forward and moving at a higher vibration. But I think I also understand intention like with a small I and a capital I, because I think sometimes we say intention like, I intend to meet you at 7:00. So that's kind of like a bit of a planning kind of small I intention. But what we're talking about here is a capital I, which is something that you actually believe that you can do and to keep with you for a while. It's not just like a momentary, plan.
Interesting. Avril, you got a definition for this? Or are you trying to sit this one out? He's trying to sit this one out because I have some strong beliefs on this.
Holding it all in.
I'm waiting for you, Eric, to throw throw a curveball. Then I'll jump in.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, because Avril is the voice of reason when they let the Kraken out of the cage, right? All right. So here's the thing. So Sophia, obviously, as you say, you know, you started with, obviously, intention is, it's not such a big deal. I'm paraphrasing, so tell me if I'm mischaracterizing this, right? Intention is not as important because it's just about kind of doing what you need to do, right? And waking up in the morning and doing what you need to do. I've been going through a little bit of a change in mentality with regards to, how you set habits and how you set, the person that you want to be. There's a really cool quote that I'm going to share with you from a guy called Eric Greitens, and I have it up and I'm going to read it verbatim, right? So you begin by asking, who am I going to be? You decided to be courageous again. So what's next? Act that way. Act with courage. And here comes the part that's so simple, it's easy to miss. The way you act will shape the way you feel. You act with courage and immediately your fears start to shrink and you begin to grow. If you want to feel differently, act differently. So the idea is, and the problem that we have, I think, as humans is we're so guided by our feelings. We wake up and it's cold outside. So we're like, you know what? I'm not going to go for that run. I'm not going to go and work out, right? Because we're letting our feelings guide our actions, which actually guides our identity. Instead, if we have a clear idea of who we want to be, a clear identity of who we want to be, in other words, a clear intention of who we're going to be, then that will guide our actions, which will then actually guide our feelings. So, I was always in your same thought process, Sophia, that you need, if you feel like it, so when I feel like it, then it's going to guide my actions, and then I'm going to turn into the person that I'm going to be, right? So that's like the whole idea of identity and kind of intentions. So what's your thoughts with that, guys, as a misnomer, as a change?
Yeah, but right back at you, Eric. That was just what I was meaning when I said that getting out of bed is an intention, and sometimes people don't take it so seriously. But what is that you want to be that makes you come out of that? What is your next move? As Almar just said, the coffee that she does in the morning, there's an intention behind that coffee. Maybe that coffee makes her feel better. If she feels better, then that she's going to perform better, be a better coach. So I think that what I meant exactly was just what you said, Eric. It's like we make like that intention to be something very big, but it's in those small actions that we show what we are. And it starts with how we get to bed at night, how we wake up in the morning. So it's just that you just said it better than me. That's it.
No, yeah, and like I think that one's more for our listeners, right? Because I think when we're talking about intention, it's clear that we, as you said, Sophia, right? We have a clear idea of what we're talking about here, right? With regards to setting an intention for who you want to be, right? Not so much kind of what we're going to do or kind of, and if it's kind of and it's all about your sense of self, right? What type of person do you want to turn up to? And you may not be that person right now, right? Like there's always that kind of journey that you need to go on, right? But I think what an intention is having a clear idea of who you want to be, who you want to turn up as, for the people around you, right? So interesting.
Eric, just to clarify, so what you're saying is, if I want to be, that person that wakes up at 5 a.m. to go for the run, which is, the feeling, I need to act like and feel as if I am the athlete that wakes up at 5 a.m. to go for a run. Because, right, our feelings follow our thoughts, right? So is that what you're saying? That first we have to have really clear thoughts of who we want to be, and then therefore our feelings and then actions follow? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So I think that kind of, as I mentioned before, right, as human beings, we're really guided by the way we feel about certain things, right? We might feel tired or depressed because of something that happened at work, or, and if we're so, I don't want to say weak, but if we're so affected by the things that are happening to us, the inputs that we're taking on, then, that's going to affect the way that we act, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we go into the thought process or into the idea that our feelings affect our actions, which affects, or our feelings turn into our actions, turn into our identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we flip the script, I think, and have a clear idea of who we want to be, what's our identity, what is our intention of who we want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not how we want to act, but of course, like, I think it starts with an identity. Who do we want to be? And then, I have an identity that I want to be a marathon runner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a really good father, right? So what are the actions does that person shows up with on a day-to-day basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, regardless of how I feel about that process, that identity kind of supersedes the actions and the feelings, because that type of person, that's just what that type of person does, right? That's my identity. That's who I am, right? So if we have a clear idea in our head of who we want to be, especially in the future, I think it becomes easier for us to now, okay, have those actions, and then we change our feelings, right? The number of times that I've, set my alarm for 6:30, probably within the last 3 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the times that I've decided to switch my alarm back off because I didn't feel like any one next reason. Oh, I'm feeling tired. It's cold outside. Or even just thoughts that go on in your head to be like, oh, I'll get the workout done later, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that can kind of get in the way of that, versus, no, this is just who I am. Like that's just what I do, because the type of person that I want to be, is, needs to get this done, right? So does that kind of clear it up, Almar, with regards to?
Yeah, no, it totally does. I appreciate that clarity. I don't know. Avril, what are you? You have a smirk on your face, and
I'm ready.
I was like, trust Eric to quote someone and bring facts and statistics.
I can't help it. I'm sorry.
But I was just thinking as you were talking, Eric, you had some amazing things to say right there. I just want to say, just for the benefit of our viewers, our listeners, what type of a coach are you? Because I feel like it came out in what you were saying. Can you just tell us what kind of coach you are?
Absolutely. So I work with performance. So, I'm a high performance coach. So I focus on helping individuals achieve their goals, right? Their goals in life. I mainly work with athletes and younger individuals, but absolutely right, Avril. I think it starts with the type of person that we want to be. And that's very much the place that I think we all need to start, right? Whether we're setting our own intention, or we're trying to think about the type of person we want to be, and if we're working with a coach, perhaps that's a place where a lot of coaches might start, right? Is, the root cause of why you're acting the way that you're acting. A lot of the time, it's usually not that face value reason, right? As you mentioned, but yeah, like high performance coaching. So a lot of people think that that's kind of like, athletics or, workouts and things like that, but it's a little bit like kind of deeper than that. It goes to the core of kind of, who do you want to turn up, as each day. So
I felt like that's what I got to as you approach the topic of intentions. I felt like I got to see a little bit of that high performance coach, the Eric side of you. I like that. Dean, about you.
I was just going to say that I like the point that you brought up, Eric, about, if you feel like you're not wanting to do something, but if you want to be like an athlete, pro athlete, how are you going to act, right? That's who I want to be. And I very much think that, I like to think of myself in that role. So if anyone's ever taken an acting class, it's actually something that is super helpful, that before you set an intention, or as you set an intention, you imagine yourself to be that person that you want to be. So for example, if I say, I want to be I want to be an athlete. So, if I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like getting up for my run, but then I can imagine myself super fit, with nice gear on, like I can sort of put myself in this role, then for sure there'll be a lot more motivation to get out and to do that. I do want to make another point, as I do like that connection, but I also want to talk about sort of the masculine, feminine, image that comes to mind here, because as I'm thinking of myself as that athlete, and I want to go and do what an athlete would do, that very much stimulates my masculine side. But in the same way, I can also think of myself as that athlete, and from my feminine side say, okay, as an athlete, I have to also not just look at what I have to do to become one or be that. I have to also say an athlete also is very in tune with my own body. So from my feminine side, I might say, as a pro athlete, my number one goal is to take care of my body. Does my body give me permission this morning to get up and go out for a run? So that's not just a feeling, but it's an actual responsibility.
That's a slippery slope that
Wow.
we'd be playing with, especially when it comes to goal setting. And, with this episode of the new year, I can take what you say and think, yeah, I can spend the next hour lying in my bed visualizing how great I will look in my new sports outfit instead of actually going and running. But definitely, I don't know how far that's going to get me. And just for that listener out there who might just be thinking, just how the hell am I going to get up at 5 a.m. to go for that run? Never mind about thinking about my athletic prowess that I want to develop. But just as a little freebie, before you go to bed, just put out whatever it is that you're going to wear.
Yeah.
And as much as I love consciousness in life, I'll tell you one thing that works for me. Sometimes it's really good to be unconscious when the alarm goes off and just get up and go and don't think about anything other than just do it. Don't think, just do. And I have found myself on the road running thinking, how the hell did I get here? I didn't even, there's something to be said. Anyway.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Jean, what you said, I was just like, ooh, juicy, juicy. Jean's got a way of bringing masculine and femininity in every conversation.
She does.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
funny enough, I've also started this week. There's an app that I'm using to just get me more productive. And one of the things I've been doing this week was practically what you just said on a practical basis, like begin if you want a good day, early morning routine, you start the night before. So I've been also doing like prepping the clothes that I'm going to wear for the next day and writing a little quick list, for the next day. And that's been working for me too. And funny enough, I think I first heard of it during our certification on the Jay Shetty certification. He mentioned it in one of his videos about prepping the night before for a good day. But yeah, those are my two shoes. All good here. Back to Eric. How's it in the studio?
Well, it's interesting you say that, right? Because I could go a number of different ways with this. Like, first of all, like obviously talking about Jean, right? Kind of, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're kind of saying, from the feminine side, being in touch with, my body and how I feel, right, is what we're trying to say, right? So in many ways, kind of, and I'd love for people who are more knowledgeable about this to kind of dive in to, I guess, with intention, we can use the power of manifestation, right? Manifesting. And for me, that's more than visualization, right? It has to do with spiritual energy and, feeling, through the laws of nature, right? My very basic understanding here coming out, as to the type, the type of person you want to be. So, any thoughts on, what is manifestation first of all, and how can you use it to develop an intention?
Chicken or the egg?
Mm.
Let's
Good.
trust Eric to bring some good questions, huh?
Mhm. Sophia, I'm curious what you think.
I think that manifestation, it's a bit of everything that we were saying here. It's
Hmm.
not an isolated process from visualizing or setting an intention or thinking as yourself as being the runner. It's all of those things, but I'm just going to go deep now and say it's when you put your heart in, you're manifesting. So the things that you put your heart and soul in, then all the universe is going to I don't know how to say the word in English. I always get this part of where, but it's like conspires. The universe
Conspire, yes.
conspires towards you.
Okay.
Yes.
When you put your heart
Beautiful.
into soul, the universe conspires to you. So that's what I say about manifestation. And it can go good and it can go not that good. It's a lot about of what you're putting yourself into it.
Like that. That makes me think of Joe Dispenza and his coherence. He always likes to talk about being in coherence, and that's the mind and the heart. And I think just to dive further, it's because then you create this energy, this coherent energy. And so we're talking about manifestation, and I think that's really an energetic idea. It's what you feel like attracts like, if you will. And and I know, Sophia, I love the quote about the universe will always conspire to help you. I think it's Paulo Coelho
Yes,
who
yes, it
said
is.
that. And but it's an energetic it's energy. For me, I look at manifestation as energy. When you meet someone, they could have a great hairstyle and a great outfit, and you think that's who they are presenting themselves, but that's not the energy that they're putting forward. The energy is all invisible and around them, and you could be the flyest person in the room, but if your energy is not in coherence with what I'm seeing, there's a disconnect, and your willingness to engage will not be met because the energetic meeting has not happened. I don't know. I'm somehow getting a little scrambled in my mind. I don't know. Does somebody want to? April, help me out
Sure.
here.
Sure. For me, interesting. So the word manifestation for me has been, to a certain extent, let me put it this way, it's been a bit of woohoo for a while since I got to know, my mind got into this kind of world. But it's interesting, in the past 2 years, right? Something very funny has happened. So about a year ago, my partner tells me this thing called a manifestation letter. So you can either do it at the beginning of each year or on your birthday, right? But you write this letter as if you're from the next birthday. So I write on my birthday this year, I write this manifestation letter as if I'm already speaking for my next birthday, looking backwards. And I say, oh, I thank you, universe, for da 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 da. Or you can write it on New Year's Eve 2024, speaking as if you're on New Year's Eve 2025, right? Kind of thing. So my partner had done this thing. I was like, okay, I'll try it. I'll do it. So I sat down, then I wrote a manifestation letter to me, right, for my following birthday. As if, oh, April, I'm like, dear universe, I thank you for, and these are some of the things that I wrote. I said, oh, I thank you for all the trips I've done in this past year, both business and personal. I thank you that I was flying first class. I thank you for my and hear this. I go, I thank you for my wonderful for my clients and my great business partners and all this kind of stuff. Now hear me out. at that point, I just wrote this letter, put it in on my laptop or my desktop, and almost every other day or every week, I'll just go over it. The crazy thing is that I was in IT 9 to 5, right? A contractor. There was nothing to do with being a business partner or having clients, right? This is something I wrote. So it's like, even when I typed it in, and was like, how does that even look like? And the crazy thing is, at that point, I didn't even know that I was gonna be a coach, that I was gonna get into be certified as a Jay Shetty certified a coach, right? And at that point, I didn't even know that I was gonna even have business partners that I have with the company that I'm part of. You get what I'm saying? But I wrote that manifestation letter, and even within the past year and a half since I wrote it, the amount of trips I've done with work and with personal, and even moments where I just show up at the airport, I'm like, "Oh, Mr. Manduru, you've been upgraded to first class." I'm like, "What?" you know, you know, I'm like, "What?" But then when
Wow.
I went back and I looked at my manifestation, I'm like, "Yo, I've never done this before." But and I kid you not, literally 2 days ago, I was looking at it, I was like, okay, this one I wrote in 2022. I'm going to put it to the side. I'm going to write a new one. I'm going to take some of the stuff from that one that hasn't come up yet, put it in this new one, and write it for this coming year. Like, oh, there's something there. So I say all this to say I'm still new to this, so, but that has been my experience, and I'm loving it. And
Yeah.
one last thing I can just say, not to bounce back to what we talked about, but in terms of intentions, one thing that I've also noticed for me and my partner is that if we're going out for the day, if we put an intention like, oh, today we're just gonna go with the flow, or today we're gonna be happy, or today whatever, there's something about putting that intention that keeps us. Either we actually end up manifesting that in itself, or when we get off the rails, we remind each other about, hey, remember our intention today was just to have fun, or our intention was to do this, in case something goes out of the way we planned it. And somewhat because we already had an intention and agreement with what we wanted the day to go by, it's easy to just fall back and get back on track. And by the end of the day, I'm grateful for how the day turned out, because usually with an intention turns out to be what we put out.
Yeah, I love that, Avril. And also now connecting my thoughts to what you were saying, when I did my vision board, and I do it after my birthday, so I always think about this like it's my new cycle of life. So I don't wait for the new year. So it's just my way of doing it. I put it there. So I look into magazines, and what I found in the magazines that connect with me, I put in my vision board. And I found a picture of that 5-minute journal. I don't know if you ever heard of it. And I didn't had any intention of buying it. I just saw it and I thought, this is a good practice. So I put it on the vision board. Guess what? 2 weeks after, one of my friends from work came to me and said, so I saw something. I reminded of you, and I brought it to you. And it was the 5-minute journal. So then I got back home. I didn't connect the dots, but then I got back home. And one day I was looking at my vision board and I was like, oh, this is here. So a little bit of manifestation, a little bit of intention, I would say. But going back to what you were saying, Avril, now I used to journal a lot of what I was thinking, my thoughts, put it on a simple journal. But that specific journal has questions about how do you intend your day to be? And that's precious, has been precious since I first started to put myself during the morning, what do I intend my day to be? Then I forget what I wrote. But at the end of the day, when I go back to that, it goes like, interesting. It's very much different when you put, I want to do this, I want to do that, and when you want to go with the flow, as you were saying, April. But yeah. Jean, you also wanted to.
I think I like the word like intention, and I guess affirmation comes in there as well, because it's something that we again intend and desire, whether it's like to be something or to accomplish something. But then I guess I feel like manifestation, it's just the evidence, right? It's the evidence and the show of what we wanted or what we intended for. I think about just a simple example, like in a relationship. Let's say that you're in love with somebody. You're consistently telling them You're so beautiful. I love you more and more every day. You know, in your mind, you want to be that great partner, somebody who appreciates them, somebody who well, just loves them unconditionally. And then I guess, you know, that whole quote, you know, like beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. You know, how can you not grow in your love and appreciation of them with a quote like that, like always understanding that it doesn't matter how they look or what they're doing for themselves, but it's within you because you want to be the best partner and love them and you know, continually be more in love and tell them how beautiful they are. So with those actions, how can that not improve a relationship and you know, bring harmony?
Interesting. I love what you said there. Just about, I think what I got from that is, you know, seeing the best in somebody else, right? And I guess, you know, manifestation, visualization, like, I guess I've always thought about it as, you know, setting your own vision for your own life, right? And going, I think, to Sophia's point, just about, like manifesting, and obviously Avril's story that he spoke about, which, by the way, we need to definitely add to the show notes about a manifestation letter, because I'll be looking for notes on how to do one of those after your results, for sure. But something I wanted to share, like with regards to what I do with my clients, Sophia's experienced this because I did it with her, going through a vision setting process. So it's a type of visualization where, you know, you go through a meditation, and perhaps if you don't have a clear idea of, you know, the identity of who you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, you again get into a meditation and you get to visualize, you know, who you want to be in those next 3 to 5 years. So who you're going to be, but you go deeper into the senses with regards to how do you feel, what do you see, you know, what do you taste, smell, and really you see the type of person that you are, right? And I've found that to be really powerful as a starting point whenever I start to work with an athlete or an individual, any kind of performer, as to the type of person that they want to be, and they can kind of, when they can see a clear picture, then that's a starting point for now setting goals, right? Because you need that dream goal first in order to now set the small steps or small goals in order to be able to achieve those. And as Sophia said, backing that up with the vision board, because now you can, now images from that can now be in a physical place that you can continue to. And I agree to an extent with what Almar was saying as well, with regards to the energy, that spiritual energy that you kind of feel that every time that you look at, let's say, this picture behind me. Actually, you can't see it, but obviously this is just a picture of a, I guess it's a, what do you call that? Going towards the ocean.
A dock
a
bridge?
pier, a dock or bridge or something like that. Yeah. So it's like a dock, right? So if I was manifesting that dock because, you know, I want to look on the horizon, right, to better new beginnings or something like that, just as an example, right? I would look at this every day, but it would be more than just looking at it. I'd be visualizing and feeling, and that for me is the manifestation. It's being able to see it, but also being able to feel yourself there in the moment, and the more real that can be, the better that we can actually achieve that, right? Avril, you wanted to kind of add something to that?
Actually, I have a question for you. So the technique you're talking about, I've heard various versions of that, and funny enough, it ties into something that even Alma said. I've heard a version of what Alma said in response to what you're saying. So my question is bringing back to you personally, because you mentioned how you've done it with your clients, right? As a coach, as an athlete coach. So bring it back to you. What has been your experience with that? Have you ever have you done this exercise before, where you see yourself in the next year, 2 years, visualize it, feel it, and what has been your results? Is it something you've done yourself and can say, oh, in 2018, this is what I did, this exercise, I felt this, and I saw myself like this 2 years later, and I'm experiencing it? Like I want to know what your personal experience has been with that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that I've actually been a victim of succumbing to my feelings a lot of the time, right? So if I feel a certain way, when I was younger, I always used to rely on my intuition and my feelings to make decisions. And sometimes that worked out to the positive, but other times that worked out from a negative standpoint, right? So as you're mentioning, as I've grown up, I have learnt, the science of this, right? With regards to setting an intention and becoming the person that you want to be. So I would say, for example, now I have a vision board that I actually have on my laptop as my laptop background, so that I take a look at that kind of every single day, which kind of just grounds me, right, with regards to who do I want to be? Because as I said already, like your feelings and things that happen in your life and that have happened in my life can often make you feel as if you're moving in the wrong direction. Even a one bad day can make you feel that you're off track, right? So just looking back at that has helped me to kind of ground me and remind me, okay, one bad day doesn't define you. Kind of let's get back on track tomorrow, kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic question. Has anyone else had an experience with regards to anything similar to Avril, regards to manifesting something or visualizing something that has either worked or not worked?
Yeah, I do, and I would like everybody's input, because sometimes, basically, I don't know when it's going to happen and when it isn't. There's a meditation that I do almost every morning, and there is, like you, Eric, your meditation. I visualize what my life looks and feels like in the next 3-4 years. But I've been doing that for years, and I have yet to have that life that I have been visualizing manifest. But there have been times, I don't know, some years ago, I was in the need of a car. I needed a car really badly, but I didn't want just any car. I wanted a specific one. And maybe other ones would present themselves to me, but I was like, no. But every morning I'd open the paper and look into the auto sales, because it was going to be a used car, and I knew exactly the one I wanted, and I knew how much I wanted to spend. I think it took 2 or 3 weeks, fell into my lap. It was it was better. The same model, but newer. And the price was even better, and it just worked out. And I don't know how that happened. It was magic, but it did. And then, those are another time. A picture I had for my vision board had a scene, and the scene really did bring out some emotion in me. I could feel the happiness in the picture. I loved all the details in it, and I found 4 years. It took 4 years that I woke up one morning in a situation, and I thought, oh, this is exactly the scene that I have been thinking about for 4 years, so it could be 4 weeks, 4 days, 4 years, or I'm still waiting. So I don't know. I don't know if it's so simple, really. And Avril, if it's just writing a letter in the present tense, and of course I know there's gratitude going to be there. I don't know, you guys. I don't think it's really that easy, but it does happen. I just don't exactly have the right recipe. Although the one thing I do know is that there has to be feeling and flow.
Yeah, definitely. And Almar, just putting on what you were saying, I think that when we put intention and manifestation, we cannot put worry or thinking that something that's needs to happen tomorrow or the next week. It's just something that you need to have patience and understanding that the universe, your energy, yourself is going to make it work. What Eric was just saying that he did with me, it hasn't happened yet, but it made me feel that, oh, I can feel this. So this can become a reality. And when you feel it and when you embrace it like this, it can take a year, it can take 5, it can take 10. But when you work with a coach, and I think that also this is important to give to our listeners, that's one of the most impactful things that you can do also is that you be, when I've seen some of my clients saying, that's impossible. I will not get there because it's impossible. And when you make the person feel it, is if it's through a meditation, a visualization, they start shifting and start believing, oh, maybe it's going to take some time, but I can make it. Because if I felt it, it's something that it's possible. And this is something that I feel like it's a mind shift when you do this kind of work with clients. What are your thoughts, Avril, on this?
I'm loving this conversation. I'm like, wait a minute. How did we get here? How did we get here? I feel like it
You
just took a
manifested
curve. I manifested it. In an interesting way, I feel like we are all speaking the same language. I mean, we're all it's interesting. I'm listening to everybody's views, and I love the fact that we got people with different views, different opinions about it. But somehow, to me, it still feels like it's the same thing. It's like we're describing the same mountain from different sides, but it's the same mountain.
I'm gonna have to
So
fix that.
yeah. So for me, so just to reiterate on my my manifestation letter, right? The point of it, or what I got from it, is that number one, it's also similar to someone who does a vision board, right? You got things that you set. So it keeps me, for me, it kept me going back to, like, because I had to read it once a week or twice a week, whatever. But it kept me going back to, like, okay, this is what I'm trying to get at. This is where I'm trying to go to, right? So that's one thing, is reminding me of my focus point. And two, it was not just about just reading it, like writing and reading. It was also about the feeling. There was that elements of Joe Dispenza's stuff, and other people talk about, like, I have to feel like embrace the feeling of what I'm calling in, right? And visualize feeling as if I'm already there. But there's a funny thing, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like when you listen to a favorite song, or you listen to a song that picks you up energetically, right? Like if I'm having a downer, then I listen to my favorite artist, and within 10, 20 minutes, I'm already vibing, man. It's like that feeling when I go over my letter and I find myself doing it once, twice, and as I'm visualizing the things that I'm talking about, like, oh God, the car, I already get into a certain vibration, certain feeling. It's about that, in my understanding of it. It's like, that's what it is. I'm tapping into something that, my normal state where I'm at, right, doesn't tap into, and that's what brings it close. At least that's the understanding that I have on that. And if I can just not throw a question, but I love the fact that, Sofia, you brought it back to, working with a coach, because I was going to say, this is awesome. Like, but for our listeners out there, how do we then bring it back to working with coaches with this? Because at least for me, my manifestation letter was sort of, I won't say my accountability partners per se, but my partner also knew about the stuff that was on my letter. So when stuff started happening, like, oh my God, check this is happening, But it's also a matter of, I had someone I was accountable to too. That's for me, kind of thing, to keep me going back to it. But how would we tie this to coaching?
I feel like there are like some practical steps. I don't know. Maybe if I have an intention, it starts with my mind, right? I sort of had this idea or image, and then it starts with my feeling, right? Attaching something very powerful, positive, that I want to remain there, stay inspired. But there's a lot of merit also to writing it down, right? It's like the next sort of step to make it more real is you put it down on paper or somewhere on your computer. And then the third step is actually to speak it, right? We actually have the vibrational, energetic like levels in our voice, in our throat. So if we actually speak it, then it makes it even more so, right? I think with the coach, it's just an added bonus, and because you're able to actually flush it out. It's not just speaking it like, I'm going to do this or I'm going to be this. A friend can listen. They can say, oh, that's awesome. Great. I'm happy for you. A coach will be like, okay, let's flush it out and ask you questions about it so that it makes it more tangible.
And it makes you go places you can't or will not go alone, right? With those questions. And even with friends or family, it's the challenging part of working with a coach, right? It's going to challenge you. Okay, tell me more. Why do you want that? And if you want that, what are you saying no to? What are you saying yes to? And as Avril was saying, the accountability part, then it makes you accountable for something that you really want to reach.
You're right. And I think also you just really hit the point that you have to be really clear about what it is you want. And a lot of times people might, manifestation doesn't work or things are not coming. But really, how clear were you? Or how much do you really want that item? And so I think that's really great, Sophia, working with a coach, having that sounding board and really whittling away and fine tuning what it is that you truly want to manifest. Because how can you get if you don't know you want?
Yeah,
Lovely. Love that.
it's funny. I'm getting as both you and Alma and Sofia were speaking, this statement from the Bible keeps coming in my head. It says, where there's no vision, the people perish. It's like if we don't know exactly where we want to go, sometimes we go through life and just things are happening randomly or not, and you don't even know what's. So for me, funny enough, that's why I feel like this, and it's interesting. I played around with this manifestation letter when I was introduced to it, but ideally, like I said, it's all same mountain, different, coming from different perspectives. Other people use vision boards, other people use affirmations, also the different stuff. So I feel like someone was talking about the same thing, but just different techniques of getting there. I love also, Jean, the way you put it into the practical, how you can practically, hear the steps, you write it down, you speak it out, you do that. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'd like to just, again, and I know we're going to start closing in a minute, but almost some preludes and to work some people up maybe in a hope that like we even perhaps have some interesting topics to continue on with. Because, one thing that I want to be super careful of, because there's always disclaimers to everything, right? I think, first of all, obviously with manifestation, visualization, and when we manifest and visualize something, it is very, I feel that it's very open to succumbing to confirmation bias, meaning when we kind of have that vision inside of us, we will almost also attribute the reason as being, I visualized this or I manifested this, right? When in actual fact, we have no actual physical evidence to suggest that actually was the case. So again, that's not refuting manifestation or setting intentions of visualization, because from the scientific standpoint, when we manifest and visualize, what we actually do is we're taking the brain to the same place, because the brain actually doesn't know the difference, whether it's there or whether it's not, right? So that's one thing that we are doing with that energy that we spoke about, is we're taking ourselves, let's say we want to, I'll take it to, again, always athletic examples for me. We want to, achieve the opportunity to be able to get a professional contract. That's, a good 75% of the athletes that I work with have that intention, and that's their vision, right, for their future. So we really manifest obviously that within their mind as to how they think and feel, because the brain obviously goes there and so is experiencing what they're experiencing. So the closer they kind of get to that within their own actions and experiences, the brain kind of catches up with that, and what we do know is that when the brain can think certain things, the body kind of catches up with it. So I think, that plus the fact that, Avril asked a fantastic question with regards to how a coach can kind of help, right? With regards to being an accountability partner. I love, that term, Avril, and you using obviously the manifestation letter. One other thing that I want to throw in there is that manifestation alone is not enough, right? Like, it's super important. Like, there's the old adage of, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The next best time is today. If with manifestation and thinking about things a million times, it's going to do absolutely nothing if you don't take action. So that's one thing that a coach can help you to do, which is to be that accountability partner. Okay. And that's one of the first things when we set that vision of what we want our life to be. What's the first step? What's the first step that we need to take? The first action that we need to take in order to take us closer to that goal, right? So we need to take action as soon as we make that visualization in order to actually make that come true, right? So I'd like to just, Jane, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, speaking about visualization, we can actually visualize ourselves to be such and such person in such and such situation 10 years from now. But it's equally powerful and necessary to also visualize ourselves the next morning, getting up, putting on the clothes that we've set out and get out to the road, right? So we're not talking about something that's sort of far in the future. And again, both are necessary.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that for sure.
Love that.
I think that's almost even more powerful, as you're saying, Gene, because you can see that person, right? Like that's much more easier to see and visualize because it's so much closer to the person that you are now, right? So I love that. So I'd love to just have our closing statements as to intention, set an intention for the new year, affirmations, and visualization, as we've kind of dove into. I'll end just with the thought that in order to set an intention, as I mentioned before, we want to set a clear identity for who we want to be. That's the first step. When we set a clear identity, then we can start to take the actions and feel the way that person feels in order to become the person that we want to become.
And Derek, if I may, I'm just going to make a joke that we started this by saying that it's all about how you get up off your bed in the morning, and Jean just finished it with the same. It's just how about you are going to get up in the morning. So
Absolutely.
We manifested together, guys.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Wow, what a fun talk. Thanks a lot.
thank
you
you
guys.
so
That
much,
was
guys. This was wonderful.
great.
For sure.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Life's a Coach, where our conversations aim to empower and support your personal growth. Until next time, remember that personal development is ongoing, so keep exploring, keep learning, and keep living a life that aligns with your true purpose. Take care, and we'll see you on the next episode of Life's a Coach.